Hey, I'm Gene Goldman. Here's a look at the week ahead for the week of May 5th. So, as I've said over the past few weeks, financial markets will primarily be focused on tariff news for their direction. With that said, though, however, we potentially have a big market moving event this week. The Fed meets on Wednesday to decide interest rate policy. As a reminder, the Fed has a dual mandate: keep inflation in check and make sure the economy is stable. If inflation is too high, what the Fed does is that they raise rates and therefore it becomes more expensive to borrow money. And in theory, this slows down demand and therefore slows down inflation. On the other hand, if the economy is slowing too much, the Fed lowers interest rates, it becomes cheaper to borrow money, and therefore increases demand and therefore increases economic growth. So let's go over what I expect from this week's Fed meeting. First of all, the markets hope for the Fed to cut rates, but I just don't see the Fed making any changes. As you see here, there's an over 90% chance that the Fed keeps rates as is. And this makes sense because if you listen to recent Fed speakers, including Chairman Jay Powell, they keep saying that they worry about the impacts of tariffs on inflation. But more importantly, listen to Jay Powell's press conference. I expect him to talk about the following. He'll continue to stress the Fed's independence, and this is notwithstanding pressure from the Trump administration. He'll also say that he remains very data dependent, and he'll watch the data for clues in terms of what should happen next for interest rates. As you see here, for example, the Citi Economic Surprise Index, which basically is an index of whenever a data point beats a consensus, the line moves higher. Whenever it misses consensus, the line moves lower. As you see here, the data is getting a little bit better. So overall, the economy is better than it seemed just a couple months ago based on that red arrow. And next, of course, Powell is likely to stress that tariffs could delay progress on inflation. So overall, the big takeaway, tariffs remain the focus of financial markets. But we do have a big event coming up this week, the Fed meeting. The Fed likely stays on hold, but more importantly, listen to what Powell says in his press conference. That's going to be very indicative of where the Fed is going. Thanks for listening. For more information, please follow us on X at Cetera IM. See you next week and have a great week. Thank you.